Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for African News with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, the president of the World Bank Group heads to Sierra Leone to pledge help in getting Ebola-affected countries' economies back on track. We hear from our correspondent in Freetown. Also, Shabaab insurgents claim responsibility for yet another attack targeting UN peacekeepers. 4 Somalis are killed after a van packed with explosives is rammed into a convoy in Mogadishu. And a little over a month on, but an age away, people in Burkina Faso are already trading in mementos from the revolution that ousted former President Blaise Compaoré from power. First up, Sierra Leone is lagging behind in containing the spread of Ebola. The World Health Organization's warned that whilst the rate of infections in Liberia and Guinea are stabilizing, they're picking up speed across Sierra Leone, except in its south. With over 6,000 people killed in West Africa by the deadly epidemic, the cost of battling disease has gutted the economies of the worst affected countries. While the president of the World Bank Group arrived in Sierra Leone on Wednesday to take a closer look at the Ebola response effort there and show the bank's willingness to help. Well, Caterina Vitozzi was also there and tells us more about what can be done.
Well, the bank have decided to roll out a really multifaceted programme of aid and assistance to Sierra Leone. In the press conference, the president, YONG Kim, said there would be a two-pronged attack, broadly supporting the aid assistance, the national and the international response to tackle the virus, but also a comprehensive recovery package to really support the economy. Now, Sierra Leone's really been struggling with the amount of international business that has been leaving the country, but he said the best way to bring that back was to get the virus, the outbreak, under control. This is what he said.
In any individual case, I think it's very hard for us to convince people to come back when they've left without being able to tell them, hey, look, they know what they're doing, they're on top of it, they've got a good plan to get to zero, and you can see the curve, it's happening. That's when I think the recovery from the perspective of the external world will start in earnest. For now, we're doing everything we can, for example, like building roads for farmers. We're doing everything we can now to prepare for the time when Ebola is at zero and all the rest of the economy starts to grow. But for right now, there are things that we can do. We're going to do as many of them as we can to help rekindle economic growth.
So, Caterina, just how has the epidemic affected those like farmers still trying to make a living amidst the crisis? We hear so much about the thousands who've died, but what about those left behind?
Well, really, the agricultural industry has taken a huge hit here in Sierra Leone, especially in the east of the country, where a lot of the agriculture is based around rice farming. Now, it's harvest time at the minute, and I actually visited that area just a few days ago and spoke to farmers there who said that the Ebola quarantines, which have restricted movement of people and vehicles, has really impacted how they can harvest and how much they can harvest. Also, there's an emergency law against public and group gatherings. So trying to get a labour force together to carry out harvesting is simply impossible. I spoke to one quite large farming collective. Normally, they harvest around 100 hectares of rice. They've only been able to harvest about half that. So it's affecting not only the amount of food produced locally, it's affecting food prices, and it's affecting what money that these farmers can make to support their families. So that's why the World Bank have really singled out farmers and agriculture as a key industry that they're really going to try and support over the coming months and indeed the coming 2 years.
Caterina Vitozzi there for us in Freetown a little earlier on. Well, 4 Somalis were killed after a suicide bomber rammed a car packed with explosives into a UN convoy near Mogadishu. Shabaab extremists have claimed responsibility for the attack. Phoebe Lanza-Wood has the story.
The debris scattered across the ground bears testament to the violence of the explosion. A car bomb targeted a United Nations convoy near the Somali capital's international airport. While UN staff were unharmed in the blast, 4 Somalis were killed.
A security official who tried to stop the car bomb was killed. Several others also died. But we're still investigating how the attack actually happened.
Shabaab was quick to claim responsibility for the blast, which went off close to many of Somalia's foreign embassies. Wednesday's explosion was the latest of several in Mogadishu. Many United Nations staff have been living in the targeted suburb ever since Somali extremists launched a similar fatal assault on the UN's compound last year. Despite the fact that the Islamist group has lost territory, Shabaab remains a threat to national security. The insurgents have started to launch cross-border attacks. Most recently, they claimed responsibility for the massacre of 36 people near the Somali-Kenyan border.
Look now at some news in brief. Emergency services in Nigeria have said that at least 150 people, including 38 police officers, were killed in a dawn raid by Boko Haram in DAMATURU earlier this week. Monday's attack on the Yobe state capital coincided with a double female suicide bombing in Maiduguri, neighbouring Borno state. The International Criminal Court's given prosecutors against Kenya's president just one more week to strengthen their case or drop charges. The ICC says that the crimes against humanity trial of Uhuru Kenyatta could not be postponed any longer. Now, he's accused of masterminding post-electoral violence in which thousands were killed in 2008. ICC prosecutors have accused Nairobi of refusing to cooperate in the investigation. And during a visit to Khartoum, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on Wednesday said Moscow plans on boosting military ties with Sudan. Alleged rights abuses has led the country to face trade sanctions, and its president, Omar Bashir, has been slapped with a warrant for war crimes. Lavrov has given no details on what form cooperation between the countries might take. Several Russian oil companies, though, have applied for oil and gas exploration permits in Sudan. It's been a little over a month since popular protests against President Blaise Compaoré's bid to stay on in power drove him from office after 27 years. People in Burkina Faso have already set up a market to trade in mementos from this revolution. Nicolas Chemin has more.
An unusual business has emerged on the streets of Ouagadougou. It's a souvenir market of October's revolution that led to the fall of Blaise Compaoré. These sellers took part in the protests.
We filmed this in the district where it was dangerous. We took part in this.
For these unemployed young men, it's a booming business.
Every day I sell hundreds of posters and 50 DVDs. There are no jobs here, so we are now benefiting from the revolution that we are part of.
Buyers said they were paying tribute to the 24 people who were killed during the uprising. The revolt brought an end to Compaoré's 27 years in power.
I've come here to find some archives and to remember the martyrs who were killed by Compaoré's regime.
Some customers explain they have come here for future generations.
Some of these pictures are going to disappear, so I want to get them so I can show them to my children and grandchildren.
More than a month after the fall of Compaoré, the popularity of the revolution market keeps growing.
Well, the battle lines have been drawn for the 2015 African Cup of Nations. The first game will be held between hosts Equatorial Guinea and Congo on January 17th. Well, the group of death drawn on Wednesday is undoubtedly Group C, which includes Ghana, Algeria, South Africa and Senegal. Ghana and Algeria had impressive moments during the World Cup over the summer, and South Africa and Senegal also boast plenty of talented players. Well, earlier I spoke to Anthony Bafo, Ghana's former captain, who told us about how he fancies his team's chances going forward.
It's a very tough group. Obviously, if you look at the qualifying series, you had Ghana, you had Algeria, Senegal, and Bafana with South Africa. Everybody was very, very impressive. And then you have Algeria, who were also very impressive at the World Cup. Ghana, the Black Stars, we had a few problems which we have overcome yet. We're going to have a new coach leading us to the AFCON in Guinea Equatorial. It's going to be a very, very tough battle. We have to prepare on the pitch, off the pitch, mentally, psychologically and physically. But I believe if we do our homework, then we'll be able to come out very well out of this group.
Now, you said there that the team's going to have to do physical